Good Time, really, we have to give a lot of credit to Rob, because if Rob didn't say, hey, whatever you're doing next, I want to be a part of, there would not be a Good Time.
It's just you and me. I'm your friend, right?
And then the writing structure was born out of Buddy Duress's prison journals that he was keeping and I was paying for while he was in prison. Originally, when we first started writing the movie, it was more of a prison film. It was, you know, but the prison ethos of, like, you know, the recidivism rate being so high and people kind of getting out of jail and going back into jail. I mean, that's where we got our title from. Good Time is a prison slang. It's the time that you get released if you're on good behavior, so it's your good time.
The movie wasn't on the radar. You know, we weren't gonna make this movie. Rob came to us and said, I want to work on something. And then that excitement, it wasn't fake. You know, sometimes everybody says, oh, I'll do this, I'll do this. He really meant it. You know, he wanted to go and wanted to dive into a character. He wanted to disappear. And he's like, I can do that best with you guys.
How would you like it if I made you cry? How would you like that?
No, I would not.
Come on, get up.
They told me I had to do this stuff.
Let's go, let's go!
Really, when I met them, I was just like, I don't know, all you can really go off is just a feeling of when you meet someone, and I just really like their sensibility, and also just, they have like, just so much energy, and like, I was talking to one of our producers yesterday, and it's kind of like, they're gonna get it done, like no matter what, so really all you have to do is just hold on, and it will just, you know, it will get done with or without you, and so it's kind of a thrilling ride to be on.
We knew that we wanted to make a piece of pulp. We wanted to make a movie that was, you know, not only dangerous in its scenarios, but like dangerous in its feeling and its vibe, and it's almost without moral. And what we found in Connie's scenario throughout the movie is that, you know, he's on the run, and, you know, every moment counts.
It's basically the story of two brothers who attempt a bank robbery and fail in a sort of spectacular fashion, and my character really sort of feeling guilty about how he's failed in it, but really he's kind of an amoral character, but his back gets pushed up against the wall and he's forced into acting for other people for maybe the first time in his life. Yeah, and just making disastrous decision after disastrous decision.
In 2017, you know, it's an unbelievably unrealistic way to kind of run away with a bunch of money, is to rob a bank. It's purely a romantic idea, and it's an idea that is perpetuated by movies. While we were writing the screenplay, there was a story that was kind of breaking about this guy in Ohio, this Polish guy, who was robbing banks disguised as an African American. And it worked. He got away with, you know, 14 bank robberies. The mask that is made, it's made by a company in LA named SBFX, and actually the government has asked them to cease production because so many people were robbing banks with these specific masks.
I definitely like extreme characters. It's just more fun to play, and also even when I read the script, I mean, there's so many bits which is kind of funny, and then like you don't know how to feel about him. It's like the guy is making really kind of gross decisions like a lot of the time, and there's still something there which you're like, I don't understand why I'm sort of okay with this guy. I mean, you don't really hate him afterwards, well, hopefully.
Are you feeling this? Are you feeling as good as I'm feeling right now?
Yeah, I'm cold.
You cold?
Yeah.
Hey, fucking, let's get to Virginia, man.
With Rob, we expected dedication, but I didn't expect this level of dedication.
I was happy to see that Rob, you know, really gave us the dedication in the pre-production stage. He read, you know, a 700-page book and a 300-page book and lost a lot of weight for the role, and the hours that we put into meeting with certain people who've been in and out of prison. As opposed to getting a voice coach, he would sit and have people from certain areas of Queens reading the entire script that he would record and then just listen to.
We're going for a take. Quiet, please.
Here we go.
Get up.
They told me I had to do this stuff.
Let's go. Let's
They
go.
told me I had to keep doing it. He made me go down all my stuff.
Shut up then.
This
Really
is my
good
work.
here.
This is my stuff, okay?
Oh, shame on you, Connie,
Shame
brother.
on me?
I don't remember the exact time. We were looking to actors. We were asking them to do like a strange rehearsal process where we would come up with questions and ask them to think like the character and respond in kind. And most people were just kind of playing somebody who has a disability, and you can kind of feel that. And then we looked at people with actual disabilities, and there were some people who were really great, but what we would have had to do to make the movie with them felt wrong. It felt like we'd be taking advantage of them.
In the back of our head, we always had Benny as kind of because the character was based on one that Benny and Ronnie had developed for a project that fell apart like 6 years prior.
And we had done like a bunch of rehearsals, and we had just talked about it. I had developed this voice, like I could realize if I held my tongue back, I could speak a certain way.
Don't get it wrong, Benny is Nick.
Okay, it was just a matter of like, okay, what parts of me can I relate to, and what parts of me can I think through? And then we had to convince the financiers that I could, because everybody was like, oh, this is a terrible idea. One of the directors playing a development of a disabled person, this is a horrible thing to do. It could
go wrong.
It could go completely wrong.
We didn't do any makeup or anything like that. It was just a slight wardrobe tweak and just Benny being a great actor. And it was so convincing that they didn't even necessarily recognize Benny in it.
When we said, okay, yes, it's going to be me playing Nick, it opened up an enormous amount of possibilities just because the three of us could always just talk. It just became easier in a way to just throw ideas back and forth about what would happen. New York we're idolizing it in a way that you idolize the neighborhood landmarks. When we went and looked for locations, it was very important that each one was an iconic thing.
It's a vertical city, but it's also such a diverse city, and there's so many different influences architecturally and culturally. In the movie, you see him move through Flushing, which is predominantly Chinese. Astoria, you're seeing where Buddy's character is, Greek American. And the Jewish neighborhood of Forest Hills is where there's a Jewish bail bondsman. Rego Park, we actually shifted around a little bit. We make Rego Park more of like a Haitian community, which is where Annie and her grandmother live. So it's like you kind of use these things to show that Queens kind of is a microcosm for like a much larger macro. When we shot the scene where these two cops are stopping Connie and Nick, I had, in a lot of my research, I ended up becoming friendly with one of the court officers whose entire family is like NYPD brass. So when we show up that day and we have this thing that we want to do where we have the car drive against traffic, that wasn't in our permit, sure, but like the detail officer from the NYPD sees this guy whose cousin is his friend. Yeah. He's not thinking like, oh, these guys are like down with the NYPD, whatever. We might not be. So he's like, everything becomes a lot more lenient to what you're trying to do, and then you can kind of sew these things into the fabric of the movie.
We very rarely improvised locations just by the nature of the movie. We had 35mm cameras, and we had to have all the locations.
We wanted to shoot in one particular part, which was a supermarket, which was active. And there's, 300 Chinese supermarket shoppers, and you want to include them because
the one thing
that's what our movie can do that like a Universal film can't. Our locations manager, who's worked on Coen Brother movies, is kind of looking at us like,
you have the location.
You guys have permission to shoot here. And we're like, oh,
he's
sure,
standing there. He's like, you can do whatever you want,
but just don't hit anybody. But that made it better because it's like then you have to run as fast as you can and not hit people.
Except then he sees Benny's character plow into somebody, and he doesn't. We're so surreptitious about how we plan people.
It was an extra.
He thinks that it was a real person who was shopping. It actually was an actor who he hired, who's just constantly taking this hit. So he was ready to shut the whole thing down. He's like, oh wait, actually that is an actor.
Yeah, that guy's.
But it was so sewn into this scenario that. That he didn't get it. He didn't see it, which, you want people to kind of feel that way.
16,480. You need another 10 grand.
In this movie, we went out of our way to try to involve as much fabric of the city and of this story as possible. So there was a movie star who originally played the bail bondsman. And it didn't work out for a number of reasons. It was mostly our fault. But we went back and reshot it with the actual bail bondsman whose office that is. The scene is such a narrative one, such an expository one. By having the real fabric in there, it kind of grounds it.
Go get the 10 grand.
Similarly, like when we shot in the jail, which was an active jail out in Queens, there are active inmates there. And we cast a lot of those actors out of, parole boards and friends.
We wanted to block out there was a stunt that we needed to block out before lunch. We started blocking it out, and one of the actors, Jerome, was like, it wouldn't go down like that. I'm like, what do you mean? And we just basically asked him how it would go down, and he then told us how it would be blocked. I'm like, all right, this is how we're going to do it. And then
our Italian AD was like freaking out. He's like, how am I going to,
He's like, wait, no, we had it this way. We spoke about it this way. It's got to stay this way. We're like, no, he's telling us he's got to have one guy here, one guy here. That's what we're going to do.
The jail scenes were sculpted from reality. They were mostly taken right from Buddy's prison and jail journals. So we were kind of beholden to the reality of those circumstances. So why would we not look to people who knew it better than, you know, maybe I did or maybe some of the other actors would. So of course we're going to lean to them for their expertise.
Hey.
I've been a fan of Jennifer since I was like, I think 14 years old. She, you know, when we reached out to her, you know, it's a supporting role, and I, instead of sending her the script, I sent her the character biography. And, you know, a big part of her character was kind of to expose that mental illness knows no boundaries. It doesn't know class, it doesn't know race, it doesn't know anything. It just knows the human brain. And I think that when she read it, she knew immediately how to kind of operate within it, and she really understood and felt and loved this weird relationship that she has with Connie.
What, and our trip? We'll go after.
Seriously, that's your response to what I just told you?
I mean, I'm thinking about your brother too.
It's interesting because she was originally in one version of the script and then taken out of another version, then we shot it, and then when we were editing it, there was something missing. She was one of the things that really took it to another level, you know? It was her part and her performance just literally changed everything, from the bail bond scene on.
Yeah, you got the full 10?
You said it was like a couple $1,000.
What's the loan? You get it back the same time as the 3. What's the difference?
It's like $7,000 difference, you know?
The Corey Ellman, Jennifer's character, wants to break free just as much as Connie does. I mean, she's a prisoner in her own home.
Do you want to talk to them? Mom! Sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. No, of course. Mom, please listen to me. You are so good, please. This isn't your fault. I just wanted to do a good thing for somebody.
So I think that, like, having this other class of person, a wealthy white woman in a high-rise jail, it was a really nice kind of, I don't know, dichotomy to add to.
It was important, yeah.
To add to this prison ethos and within the rest of the movie.
Can I help you?
The Crystal character and her grandmother, Annie, I think a line in the script that I was really into when we were writing it, and then when the way Talia performed it was just how truthful the line felt to me when I wrote it. When Connie shows up at their door and Crystal says to her grandmother, you know, someone's at the door, and she goes, who is it? She goes, I don't know, some white guy.
Who is it? I don't know, some white guy.
The way she says some white guy was so powerful, and the way she said it, it deserved no direction. She just said it, and it was intuitive, and I thought that was very loud to me and satisfying. You know, as best as I think I can write a 16-year-old girl, you know, there's limitations there, obviously. We wrote the character, and we were kind of leaning on the casting to kind of help define who she was. So we met with a lot of young actresses.
We narrowed it down to like 3 people, and then they were going to meet Rob, and we were going to see how they interacted with Rob. And we did a camera test to see that. And she met him, they did the test, she held her own, and then after she left, we found out she had like seen Twilight like 50 times, was obsessed with him. All of a sudden we realized, oh my God, she can completely con him, and she can con us, and she could do, so she could play this role. And that was huge in our realization of who she was and what she could do.
We all really strongly preferred her. She was younger than 18, so it put a lot of strain and stress on the actual production, because you can only shoot a certain amount of hours. So when we put her in front of Rob, and Rob was like, that's the one, we kind of leaned on him because he's the one who's gonna have to act with her. So when he said, this is the girl, we were like, okay, we just made our lives a lot more difficult in terms of production.
Yo! Stop playing!
Barkhad Abdi has an uncanny ability to say any line with pure conviction.
I'm not fucking around!
You know, it was kind of a dream. It was like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could get Barkhad? I think what ended up convincing him to do the role was there's a scene in the movie where his character is on a lot of acid, and he saw it as an opportunity to create like almost a mimetic performance that would just people would want to share and spread, and he went with it.
Hey man, it's all right. It's all right. Relax. There goes that drug use, huh? Just hold on to his legs. Make sure you got his legs.
All right. I'm gonna relax. Yeah, let's restrain him.
We said speak in Somalian and then say your darkest and deepest fears. And at one point he was screaming and then he started laughing. And then he started screaming and then laughing again, looking at his hand. It was one of the most incredible things to witness.
It's a tough thing to do as an actor, though,
my
and
God.
the fact that that was one of the things that attracted him to the part
Yes.
was kind of incredible.
I wasn't acting all the time in this, but I would run boom and I would work with the sound on this because it removes.
Having Benny run boom is invaluable to the chemistry of the film set, because the sound person is someone who's often overlooked in terms of the value of a film set, because the proximity is the strongest with the sound operator, because especially the boom operator, they're usually
You're
the
there,
closest
yeah.
to the actual
clear
action.
the room, but somebody has to still be in there.
So I think actors felt, it was unusual. Like when Rob saw that this was, I told him that's how we work. He's like, oh, that's unusual. But I think in the end, it adds to an intimacy. And, we've always, the way we work is we kind of play it by ear. I specifically, on a technical level, I'm very involved with the camera and figuring out where it goes, knowing where it goes. And in terms of working with the actors, if I'm kind of working with an actor, I'm the one who's speaking. Like, we try as best we can to not have multiple voices in the room at the same time, because nobody likes that.
Cutting.
We didn't think of it as a brotherhood movie. It's strange. While we were making it, we were like, oh yeah, they're brothers, but we just took it for granted. And then when we finally are looking at it, I'm like, wow, this brother connection is really strong. It was like, we couldn't help but make it strong, because we have a good connection with one another and a strong, almost unspoken connection. And Connie and Nick, they don't necessarily speak and they don't know each other that well, but there is something powerful about this kind of fraternal relationship and what it's like to have family. And that's very important.
I love you, all right?
I think having a brother, I think one of the interesting things that I think Connie brings to it, and Rob would always mine us for, is that you often look to someone who you literally shared a womb with, that you see them as an extension of yourself to some degree. And I think knowing that and seeing that kind of innate closeness between you, even if you're not close people, there is an unspoken bond that connects the two of you. And if, Connie growing up, having a disabled brother, it was kind of a thing, and how he dealt with it informed who he was as a person. Rob was often really interested in how Benny and I had kind of an unspoken connection, and bringing that to the part of Connie with Nick.